Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money, with your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 248 of Screw the Commute podcast. I'm here with my good buddy, Greg Williams, the master negotiator. He's going to have some great negotiation tips and body language tips and all kinds of good stuff. And remember, you're always negotiating. So make sure you hang in here for his introduction here shortly. Now, episode 247, how to do a live event. Now, in this episode, I gave you a lot of tips and things to think about if you're going to do a local, small, live event. This isn't big arena thing. Sorry, that's a whole different ballgame. But you can make a lot of money with local, small events. So, I've done hundreds of them, and there are a lot of things that could ruin your event if you don't think about them in advance. So that's episode 247. Make sure you grab a copy of our free automation ebook. We usually sell this for $27 on the website, but it's yours free for listening to Screw the Commute podcast. And just one of the tips in this book has saved me over 7.5 million keystrokes. And I am not exaggerating. Somebody thought I was just making that up. No, actually 2 years ago, so it's probably more than that now, we actually estimated and figured it out how this one program saved me that many keystrokes and probably carpal tunnel syndrome. So grab that at screwthecommute.com/automate free, screwthecommute.com/automate free. And of course, everything we do, including all Greg's stuff, will be in the show notes. This is episode 248. So to get to the show notes, you go screwthecommute.com/248, and you can click on these links. You won't have to memorize them or write them down. While you're over there, grab a copy of our podcast app. This is a thing you can put on your cell phone or tablet to take us with you on the road. And you know how you get an app and they don't show you how to use it? Well, we've got complete screen captures, and very soon, maybe in the next couple days, we will have a video up there too to show you how to use all the screens and do all the fancy features that it'll do. All right, our sponsor is the Internet Marketing Training Center of Virginia. It's a distance learning school, and now, we're starting in-house classes mid this year, and we're up to being able to take the GI Bill, where people will be able to come in-house and study with us. So, and we do need some help. We do need a recommendation. If anybody knows an actual CPA that does audits, we have to do a special audit, and we want somebody that's military friendly to help us with that and maybe give us a discount, because we're really discounting heavily for our military veterans, and to help us get that underway so that we can get our application in to take the GI Bill. So we're looking for help on that. All right, let's see. And also, I want you to take the quiz at imtcva.org/quiz. If you know anybody, or if you yourself have kids or nephews or nieces that are thinking about going to college, take this quiz and be prepared to be mad, because it shows 7 ways colleges and universities are ripping off families and students and causing all this massive debt and giving lousy education. But there's specific things that they're doing that I consider fraudulent. And I'm a consumer advocate. I got a show in development in Hollywood called Scam Brigade. And I mean, if it was anything but a college or university, they'd probably be in jail for doing some of this stuff. So check that out at imtcva.org/quiz. All right, let's get to the main event. With the richness of 30 years of negotiating and reading body language experience, Greg Williams is an accomplished author, speaker, trainer, and recognized worldwide thought leader. He's appeared on all the U.S. major TV networks, and I'm afraid to say this because now we're all going to go to jail because he did Russian TV, so he must be colluding with the Russians is all I can figure out. And now I'm in trouble now too, probably. So anyway, we'll hear that story. Niet. Stop it. Be quiet. So Greg has written 7 books about negotiations and reading body language, and he's currently writing Number 8. Greg, are you ready to screw the commute? And don't say yet.
Tom, I'm telling you, you have me cracking up over here for sure. And just so everyone is aware, I am not and do not collude with the Russians.
Everybody says that. How are we supposed to believe you? We need to investigate. That's what we need to do.
You're always negotiating. So.
Right. No, we're always investigating, I think would be more appropriate.
For sure.
Oh boy, we go way back, and we had you on in a previous episode, maybe about a year ago, and so you got to listen to that episode too, folks. There's just hysterical stories on there from Greg's past, but a lot has transpired since then, and I'd love to hear about this body language, because we're all watching so much TV and all these candidates that are trying to become president, including our president. Have you been watching any of this stuff and seeing how they're reacting and how they come across with their body language?
Yes. No, Tom.
All right, the next subject now.
No, and I did that intentionally.
Well, at least you didn't say duh. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Niet and duh.
Exactly. But I did that intentionally because a lot of times we speak more with our body than we use words to convey our real sentiments.
I can see that. I can see that right through this microphone. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Well, I'll tell you what. Now you just set me down another path, because even when you can't literally see someone, but you can hear what they're saying, you can pick up on the nonverbal cues, pauses, as I just did, that will also give you insight into possibly some of the thoughts that they are having.
Isn't that where they tell salespeople to smile and stuff while they're making sales calls and things?
Well, yes, they do that. And well, depending upon the environment that you're in. So let's say hypothetically, you're selling your product for $1,000 and you were just offered $100 for it in return. The smile could be somewhat disconcerting, number one. It could convey that sentiment, or
you could laugh out loud.
Says, yeah, there you go. And Tom, that ties right into watching, observing how someone's body language is synchronized with the words that they pronounce. And that gives you more insight into even how truthful they believe their words to be.
Right. So you should believe the body language over the words, right? Or not?
Oh, definitely so.
Yeah.
The body never lies. And what that means is, well, let me back off of that statement slightly. The body always attempts to stay in a state of comfort. And when we lie or tell things that we don't know or think to be the truth, we give a reaction to those feelings that we're experiencing internally, and it shows through the body language gestures that we emit. So, for example,
wait a minute before you give the example. I'm not sure I believe this, because my body lies to me all the time. It says, Tom, you're an international playboy, and then I go down to the bar and the girl's calling security on me. So the boy lied to me.
But Tom, like I said, to the degree that someone believes they are telling the truth, their body will accept it.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. Now you made me forget the example I was getting ready to cite. My goodness.
It probably had to do with me being an international playboy, probably.
Well, no. But seriously though, so let's say as an example that you know that you are lying, and you are questioned as to the validity of the statements you're making. You may all of a sudden start to rub your eye, which is a sign indicating, well, I may not necessarily want to see what I'm saying. Now, notice what I said, see what I'm saying. You may touch your ear. Well, I don't necessarily want somebody to know that what I'm saying, as they might hear it, is not truthful. So the body will give some form of action to the statement that you're making if you know that it's false. In addition, when you know that something is false, your body goes outside of your state of comfort, and that's why you emit those signals in an attempt to bring yourself back into a state of comfort. A baby cries even when it's young, when it's soiled, because it's out of that state of comfort. And like I
I
said,
do too. I
we
do the
always
same thing, and I'm old.
well, we'll have to we'll
Same
see what we'll see
reason
what that
too.
yeah, we'll see what that depends on.
Yeah.
Okay, depends
Yeah, I
on
get it. I get it.
okay.
So
So
can
anyway,
now the CIA guys, can they train people to lie without giving these tells?
well, to a degree, you can. For example, if you practice a lie long enough, it becomes your truth.
Ah.
And thus, remember what I said, to the degree that you think the truth is the truth, your body will not exhibit those same tells that I just spoke of a moment ago. So, yes, one can be trained in it, and you can go over and over and over and over the same type of statements that you'll make until you do believe them. But one of the things that the CIA actually does, and the FBI and police authorities around the country, is to ask you questions from the middle part of your story to see the consistency or lack of, or they'll rearrange facts. For example, I may say, last night I happened to be driving a blue car and I stopped at the light when I saw the man running past in a hurry. And the agent may say, so last night you were driving a green car when you saw the man running by? And I may say, yes. I mean, no. Well, okay. So all of a sudden now they may not come back to that until later, but what they will do is mark the fact that you said a blue car one time, a green car another time, and they will retest you by asking a similar question to that to see exactly what you say. And that's how people get tripped up.
Hmm.
It's always easier to tell the truth, Tom, because you don't have to remember the
Exactly
lies that
right.
you tell.
But can they beat
Mhm.
lie detectors? Can the internals of your body be tricked to believe stuff?
Well, yes is the answer to that, which is why in some cases uh, such results are not admissible in a court of law. Because if I believe I'm telling the truth, I'm not going to give a reaction to it
Hmm.
being a lie. And thus, you can ask me all day long, is your name Greg Williams and are you the master negotiator and body language expert? I'll say yes. I'll say yes. I'll say yes. And then someone says, are you the master negotiator known as David Williams? And I'll say, yeah, no. But if I'm used to saying yes to that,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to just fall right in line with my beliefs.
See, I'm asking all this because of my big court case coming up that for fraud.
Ah,
No,
Tom.
I'm not really Tom Antion. I'm Greg Williams with Screw the
Oh,
Commute podcast.
well, thank you for the upgrade.
Well, you won't say that if they take you away in handcuffs, you know.
Well, this is true.
So tell us about some all the politics going on. What are you seeing without naming names, and what kind of things are you seeing that are working well, working not working so well?
I definitely observe how uncomfortable some of the candidates are when talking about their prior record or
Ah,
talking about their record in general, because some are hot topics with certain constituencies that they are attempting to woo again
mm,
in order to advance, become closer on the Democratic side to being selected to represent the party in the presidential
right.
election. And in observing some of that, you can see how uneasy they feel about things that they've done in the past. Now, some of the insights that can be gleaned from that will tell you to what degree someone may be truthful about how he or she would act when he or she got into the White House.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to go back to 2016 just for a moment. You may recall that there were all kinds of statements made by a particular candidate. And one thing he would do right away is to say, no, it's not true. It was misinterpreted, yada, yada, yada. That's a tactic from a negotiation perspective that negotiators will use from time to time. No, you did not hear me say that I did not like her. What I said was she is not likable all the time. And what they're doing, and especially from a negotiation perspective, is just mixing in enough potential confusion such that they can have you shift your paradigm. And once you shift your paradigm to the way they want you to perceive a situation, whatever they're trying to do, make themselves more favorable to you or make another candidate less favorable, you become more susceptible to doing just that. It's an old negotiation tactic,
Hmm.
just rearranging someone's words such that you create just a nuance of confusion, and that's all you need to go down a different path.
Well, there's plenty of confusion out there. They must be, A students at this job.
Hey, in order to be a politician, you almost have to be,
I
Tom.
always thought that. I've never been into politics, and then for me, to win at the highest levels, you have to be two-faced because you just can't get enough votes unless you please enough of the people on both sides to vote for you. And I'm sure there's plenty of that. What you were opened this section up with, of being uncomfortable talking about what you've done and said in the past.
And you're absolutely right, because unfortunately or fortunately, depending upon whose side you're viewing this particular um, argument from, there's too much money in politics. And in order to politically advance, you need the money from certain constituents
Hmm.
to do so, which means you then become beholden to those constituents simply because they've supported you. They did so for a reason. And the reason is to get you into a position where you could support their efforts. So it becomes an incestuous, one hand washing the other
Yeah.
type of situation. And who's left in the mix? The
Y-
public that the politicians are supposed to be serving, which, now you're getting me down a
I
different
think
path
you should
because,
run. I think you
well,
should run for president.
Tom, I ran for public office once,
Yeah. What for?
and
What?
in the state of New Jersey. And that's all I'll say at this particular point in time. But I've been asked if I might possibly consider running for a U.S. congressional seat one day.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, if the climate was right, because I love to help people. But Tom, in this current political environment, my gosh, I would not step my toe into
You say
those
one wrong
contested
word, you
waters.
got people out protesting at your
Yeah,
house. Yeah.
not only that, if you said one wrong word 30 years ago,
Exactly.
they're bringing it up. My gosh, Tom Antion?
Yeah.
Oh, shame on
Yeah.
you.
Exactly.
Now I'm sure you'd get me more votes.
Oh, I don't know about that. But so okay. So body language is body doesn't lie,
Mhm.
and people will touch their nose and their ears and their eyes. Is it all three of those? If they might be uncomfortable,
Well,
that might be one part of the whole
y-
tell.
yes, it might be one part of it, but let me tell you something else that I just discerned from that momentary pause that you had there.
Hmm.
I sensed you may have been getting ready to go someplace else with a joke or something of that nature, or you were just being reflective upon what it was that you were truly thinking. Now, before I go deeper into answering your question, tell me to what degree I picked up on something in that pause.
Yeah, it wasn't the joke; it was the thinking, the reflective.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And see, those are the type of things that one should observe, even when you're speaking to someone on the phone
Hmm.
and you can't see the real gesture, but you can pick up something that has occurred in that moment. That person went into thought mode. Now, back to your question. Those are some signs that some people may exhibit in certain situations. And you may recall from past interviews that we've engaged in, I always say when you ask a question, well, it depends. Well, most of the times I'll say it depends.
Right.
And the case that you just cited, touching the nose, the ears, the mouth, whatever, it also depends. It depends on the environment that the person is in. It depends on the culture that the person may have come from. It may also depend on the degree that the person feels uncomfortable. And I say all of that to say, thus, you have to establish a baseline before you can accurately decipher someone's body language signals, such that you, by establishing that baseline, understand how that person acts in a normal environment when they are not in a state of stress, when you can discern that the person is usually telling the truth. So you establish that baseline, and then when you get into a more intense situation with them, that's when you have something to compare their current actions to based on how they acted prior. And thus, somebody may touch their eye when they feel uncomfortable or make a statement related to sight. It also gives you insight for how the person uses their body if they speak of if they speak auditory and yet they're touching their eye, because that's a mixed message. I say something, but I'm touching my eye, meaning I'm using a visual perspective to convey my message, as opposed to one that is more synchronized with auditory. And again, you can delve deeper into that person's personality type just through those actions. Because to a degree, that's a mixed metaphor at that particular time. If you say, "Oh, I see what you mean," and you're touching your ear, again, you get the gist of what I'm
Yeah.
putting together. Yeah.
Now
So those are the
that
type of
baseline you're talking about, is that why maybe if they have a suspect in an interrogation room, they do a bunch of simple, easy questions? There's no reason to lie.
That's exactly why they do it. And Tom, during that case, or I should say, during that situation, as you are experiencing what should be a natural environment, you may be a little stressed out simply because uh, you're being
Mm-hmm.
tested via a lie detector. So that becomes your baseline, which is then measured, as opposed to, hey, he's out with friends and things of that nature, and he's displaying a different type of baseline that may have a lower stress associated with your actions.
See,
So
I got
again,
it.
it's the baseline.
I got it now.
Okay.
Next time I get arrested, I'm just going to lie the whole time. and then and that's really going to mess them up, right?
Yeah, as they're taking you off in the paddy wagon. Like, wow, did he think he could mess us up by lying all the time? Oh boy.
All right, all right, so let's switch gears. That's some really cool stuff on body language stuff, and you have books on this, right?
Oh, definitely so.
What do you got?
Like
What's
I
the
said,
books?
well, my latest one. No, I'm sorry. The one I wrote 2016 is titled "Body Language Secrets to Win More Negotiations." The latest book that was written in 2018 is "Negotiation Secrets to Win More Negotiation." Oh gosh, Tom, can you believe that I can't remember the
You write
titles?
so much you can't remember them all.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually titled "Negotiating with a Bully." Take charge and turn the tables on people trying to push you around. And that's the book that has literally just been translated into Chinese. So I had to practice my Chinese so
Can
I
you
could
read
read the
it?
book.
Can you read some for us in Chinese? So give us a
Sure,
little book reading.
sure.
Don't do it.
Hi,
Don't do
hoo,
it.
ha, da,
Yeah.
da. No. See, now you're going to get me into trouble
I
because
know.
10 years later,
Yeah.
someone would say, and he was mocking the Chinese on the
Exactly.
Tom
Right.
Antion interview.
So, all right. So let's switch in and give people some negotiating techniques, because that's something you're doing all day long, every day, and especially in business, it could mean make it or break it, right?
Oh, definitely so. One of the techniques that I love, and I'll do it via example, is what's called an assumptive question. And Tom, you know what assumptive questions are, right?
Well, you're assuming that I know
Yeah, exactly. Well, and Tom, here's the thing about assumptive questions. Assumptive questions will gain more insight from the person you're negotiating with per the type of question you ask. As an example, I'll go back to that $1,000 example that I cited earlier. So, hypothetically, you and I are negotiating for something of value at $1,000. And I'm the purchaser in this case, you're the seller. And I say something along to you of, well, Tom, you've lowered your price in the past, right? Now, that's an assumptive question. And the
So you didn't
implied,
give me a chance to answer.
oh,
I just said yeah. I said yeah for people I like.
well, and here's the point, Tom. No matter what response you get, you'll gain insight that will then tell you what you should do next. So, okay, in the example that you just replied with,
Mhm.
I would say something along the lines of, so Tom, what is it that you like about me? Now, the assumption is you like me. Now, you can tell me, well, go ahead. What is the assumption
No,
that you like about
I would have
what-
said, no, I'm thinking all the bad things I would say. Well, not much. I mean, it's kind of smell, actually.
and it's
And-
coming through the microphone.
Yeah,
huh?
and I don't see any envelopes of cash sliding under the table here either. So that would make me like you.
Yeah, well, hey, Tom, and you know what? To just prolong this example, even if you said you smell, I could say something like, "Oh, wow, I'm glad that you like my scent," right?
I would,
So-
all right, here's me answering, holding my nose. No, I don't like that smell.
and then I'd say something along the lines of, "Your body language gestures has never indicated that before."
So in other words, I can't win against you.
well, no. Well, the point is, you will gather information by
Mhm.
using assumptive questions that you might not have gathered
All right,
had
go
you
ahead.
not
Give
asked
it-
the question. in
Give
that
them
manner.
an actual definition of an assumptive question.
It's given the assumption that you know more about what you've asked than may be the case, which will put the other negotiator into a state of query. Like, does he know that? How does he know that? When did I do that? Did I do that? And you're either, if you're talking on the phone, you're listening for cues such as what I pointed out a moment ago when there was that momentary pause that indicated you were in thought mode, or they literally come right out and they give you the insight that says, well, yeah, I did, but here's why I did that. In either case, like I said, you've got
You
more
learn something.
information. Yeah, exactly. And here's the other thing too about negotiations. The person asking the question is the person controlling the negotiation at the point the
Mhm.
person is asking the question and getting a response, which is why you'll see some negotiators answer a question with a question.
Yeah, because
Because
I would
what
have said you've dropped your price in the past, and I might say, well, let me ask you why would you ask such a thing? Are you on a tight budget or what?
Well, I'll assume that's a yes, correct? So you see,
like I said, he can't beat you at this game.
but that's how you literally turn it right back around to gain control in the negotiation.
That could be a comedy skit where each person, never, keeps coming back with a different question.
Well, Tom, when I make presentations literally around the world, there are times when I will bring someone up on stage and I'll go through an example live with an individual. One particular point in time, a lady said, Greg, you're not answering my questions. All you're doing is continuously asking me more questions. I said, and does that bother you?
Everybody laughed.
Did it. Yeah, exactly. I was going to say the audience did exactly what you did. She did not catch it at first. And then she started laughing. But that's the point. Sometimes others, the people that you're negotiating with, and there's a different mindset with negotiating with versus against, and we can talk about that in a moment, will not catch what you're doing. And the more that they fall under your spell, and you can use your voice also to induce someone into a trance-like state
right.
when you're negotiating with them. But the more you do that, the more you gather information and not give out information.
All right, so we got to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to ask you about my regurgitation technique and see what you think about it. Okay.
Okay.
So, folks, I really want you to go over to my school website and take that college ripoff quiz. I mean, it only takes 2 minutes, and even if you aren't considering going to college or sending your kids to college, I'm virtually certain you know someone who is. Pass it on to them. I mean, it's a new era, and I know it's hard to overcome 100 years of brainwashing where everybody had to get a college degree, but, it's not working nowadays for a lot of people. In fact, one college president said only 20% of his graduates get a job in the field they went to college for. And I have a webinar on showing how the amount of time the kids are actually going to class. I mean, I wouldn't want to mortgage my house and be in debt for the next 20 years for some of the stuff's coming out of here. So check it out at imtcva.org/quiz. Of course, that'll be in the show notes with all Greg's great stuff. And really consider, you can have a great career on the internet, or there's so many opportunities now. In fact, Google, Apple, IBM, Bank of America, and hundreds of other big corporations have now gotten rid of their requirement to have a college degree to apply. They want people that can actually do stuff, not people that, got an A in art history. So check it out. And if we can help you, give us a call at the school. All right, let's get back to the main event. Greg Williams is here. He's the master negotiator and body language expert. And I'm thinking about throwing up. And I want to ask Greg about my regurgitation technique. So in the past, when I was negotiating and talking to people about potentially having me speak, I would write down key words that they said, and then I would use them back against the person, either on my website. I'd go change my website to have the words that they use, so that they might say, well, Tom, we're having morale problems around here. So I'd write down morale. And he said, we got to get some excitement here because our sales figures are lagging. So I'd say sales lagging and excitement. And then I'd run over to a web page and I said, well, I'll send you a web page of one of my programs. And then I would change the text on it to say, this program is great for excitement and morale. and so what do you think? Is that what you're talking about, or is that like NLP kind of stuff?
Yes. Tom, now seriously speaking, it is brilliant, because what you are doing is echoing, mimicking exactly what words they've already given you. And good salespeople know that they should sound like the prospect to whom they're trying to convince to purchase their product, use their services, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a cliche that says people like people that are like themselves. And my gosh, when someone hears the words that they've uttered literally coming back to them, psychologically speaking, it sounds familiar. Well, duh, it does sound familiar because the words came from that person.
Yeah, I mean, they would literally come back and say, man, that program's exactly what we were looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
No kidding.
Exactly. And good negotiators, when they want to bond with someone, will literally do the exact same thing. We've all heard about mirroring, mimicking other individuals that you're trying to bond with. The opposite is also true when you do not wish to bond with someone. So if they said, I see that this might be a good deal, and you don't want to bond with the person, you would say something along the lines of, well, I don't know if what I'm hearing is believable. Again, you're disconnecting intentionally to put distance between you and that person. And if they really need or want what you have more than you want to sell it at the price they're offering, you will then make them almost literally lean into you and your offer, which means if you note such body language gestures as them leaning into you, they are getting more serious about attempting, if they truly want to purchase what you have, they're getting closer to aligning themselves with your perspective.
I guess you could take that too far. Like if you said, oh, you're a lying sack of crap. That might be more than, I'm not sure what you're saying is believable.
well, here's the top. Seriously speaking again.
Okay.
There's some individuals that take a hard line stance. The only way I can win is if I make you lose. Well, if you're negotiating with that type of individual, yeah, you might literally want to come out and insult that person to see how that person responds. Because what you're saying is, and I talk about this in negotiating with a bully, what you're saying to that person is, you are not going to run over me, number one. Number two, you may think a lot about yourself, and your mother may think a lot about you. The heck if I do, so you're literally.
And then they punch you in the eye.
Well, yeah. There's where the body language gestures come in, because what you want to observe, truthfully speaking, is someone flexing their hands at that particular point in time. Mm-hmm. Because if they start flexing their hands and all of a sudden it stops in the form of a fist, seriously, watch out.
Yeah, we do that in our brutal self-defense class. We watch their hands and where their feet are, and and the clench in their jaw and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very good.
So, so you got books on this too, right? Or is it the same ones?
Yes. Yeah. Negotiating with a Bully, Body Language Secrets to Win More Negotiations. And I wrote my first book, Tom, back in 2007, Negotiate. Afraid No More. And afraid was, and the, it was, no was spelled Know,
Uh-huh.
Afraid No More. Boy, oh boy, I must say my writing skills have increased dramatically since then. But nevertheless, I say that to say, if someone just was in a beginning stage of wanting to know more about how to become a better negotiator, if you can painfully read through that Negotiate Afraid No More book, let that be your starting point, and then just come up the ladder, as it were.
All right. Well,
To
where do they find all these?
Barnes and Nobles, Amazon. I always say where fine books are sold.
Okay. So you could send us all the titles though, so we can put them in the show notes for all of them.
For sure, I definitely will.
Yeah. So we'll put them in there. So, man, thanks so much. It's been good catching up with you, man.
Tom, it's always a pleasure being in your environment because I know I'm going to learn something and have fun while doing
We
it.
definitely have fun. I mean, when we're
Definitely so.
we're together. So everybody, this has been Greg Williams, the Russian negotiator. The master negotiator. and I'm not sure I'll release this until I find a safe house, so they can't come get me for colluding. But so anyway, check the show notes. This is What the Heck episode. This is episode 248, and this is a skill. This guy is the bomb on this, and this is a skill that could make you literally millions of dollars and save you millions of dollars too in your business. So get his books and learn from Greg and prosper from it. So thanks, Greg, for coming on, man.
And remember, you're always negotiating. And hey, just for all of those listening abroad, the bomb means a good thing. It's not associated with terrorism or anything. And I just wanted to clarify that because you're always negotiating.
I actually meant terroristic threats out of that, but
Gee.
all right, everybody, we'll catch you on the next episode. See you later.